there. How's it going, friends? Good. Oh, I'm glad. Great presentation. Let's go. All right, we're in session 5 now. We've got star stories and stewardship. Decolonizing the dark up now. Joining us, sorry, I'm out of breath. That couch is We've got Betsy Pludre and Maddie Turco. They're going to be running you through it. Let me tell you about them. Betsy Pludre is a senior at the University of San Diego, majoring in anthropology and psychology. She's the resident astronomer and chief laser pointer operator for the USD Outdoor Adventure Program. Her love of the stars can be traced back to a visit to the Seattle Science Center at age 5. She endeavors to incorporate her interest in cultural anthropology and the power of storytelling into conversations surrounding the night sky. Very cool. 2 more deep breaths.
You got it. It's okay. We've been known to take people's breath away. We're just not good.
Okay, pump on. Maddie Turco is an outdoor leader and senior at the University of San Diego, where she majors in political science and anthropology. As a guide for the USD Outdoor Adventures Program, she's interested in exploring the intersection of cultural studies and the wilderness. Specifically, where learning can happen through doing and experiencing. On any camping trip, she aims for 2 things, a vibrant sunset and a clear sky for spotting shooting stars. Take it away.
True. Thank you. All right, we're so excited to be here. We're really excited to be in Tucson, the dark sky city. This is a perfect spot to be talking about stargazing and storytelling because there's really great stars here, as most of you probably learned last night. So we wanted to start by showing you exactly what the night sky is going to look like tonight so that you all can go home and see for yourselves. So I want to navigate here to, this is Stellarium Web. This is a really awesome website. And you just put in your location. You can see down here. We put in Tucson. You can change that to whatever your local location is. And then the day and the time. So this is tonight at about 7 p.m. So when you're finishing dinner, going back to your tents, looking up at the sky, this is what you're going to be seeing. So this here is north, but you can kind of rotate it around, see what it's going to look like in different regions. It'll show you all of the stars, the planets. You can see satellites here moving, that's Starlink. So it's really cool because you'll be able to get a great idea of just what exactly you're going to be seeing. So we want to focus right here on this constellation. This is Orion. It's going to be super bright right overhead in the east here. This is the eastern horizon. So if you're on the football field, it's like looking towards the Circle K and a little bit to the right. But this is one of my favorite constellations. This is cool because you can see the art here. I'll show you the drawings of what each constellation is supposed to represent. So we have Orion here is the hunter. And in Greek mythology, Orion was a mortal who fell in love with the goddess Artemis. But Artemis's brother Apollo opposed the match. So Apollo tricked Artemis into shooting Orion with one of her arrows. And grieving his death, she placed him in the sky, where he remains for all eternity. So I want to bring you right back to our PowerPoint here. There we go. And this is a photo that I took on one of my most recent trips. This was just a couple weeks ago. And so this is a good idea of like what you're going to be seeing when you're looking at the sky tonight. And I think this photo is pretty cool because you can see in this photo the different colors of the different stars. Like if you look right over here, this is Betelgeuse. That's a really orange star. And over here is Rigel. That's a really blue star. And so I don't know if anyone knows this already, but you can actually tell the age of a star by looking at its color. So I'm guessing some people in this room have probably seen a campfire before, right? People comfortable with a campfire? Okay. So if you're looking at a campfire, the hottest flames are going to be those really bright blue flames that are going to be like close to the source. And then as you get further away, they're going to be like yellow and then orange and then reddish. It's like really important if you're looking to toast the perfect marshmallow. You want to know where it's the hottest. Stars are big burning balls of gas. They work the same way as a campfire. Your hottest, youngest stars are going to be the really bright blue ones, like Rigel here. And your oldest, coldest stars are going to be the red stars, and that's going to be like Betelgeuse here. Betelgeuse is actually one of my favorite stars. It's so old that we think it probably doesn't exist anymore. Betelgeuse is 642 light years away, so that means it takes the light from that star 642 years to reach us. So what I'm looking at in this photo, what I'm looking at in the sky tonight, is Betelgeuse as it looked 642 years ago. So it was old then. And we're guessing that in that time, it's probably since exploded. It's turned into a supernova. And it's likely that the light from that supernova will reach us maybe even during our lifetimes. And when it does, it'll be the second brightest object in the sky, second only to the sun. You'll be able to see it during the daytime. It'll be as bright as the moon. It'll last for like a week. So that's really fun. Like you're looking into the past when you're looking up at the stars here. And this photo was taken in San Diego. So that's on Kumeyaay land, the Kumeyaay tribe. And the Kumeyaay interpretation of this constellation is the three bighorn sheep. So you have the three stars of Orion's belt right here. And each of those stars is one of the sheep. So you've got like the youngest sheep on the bottom here, the middle sheep, and then the oldest sheep. And bighorn sheep are known for having really great eyesight. And these three are the watchers of humanity. They're gazing down at us, making sure we stay on the right path in life, kind of watching over. And then we have Rigel over here is the chaser. And the chaser chases the sheep in the direction of Betelgeuse, who's the hunter. And I just think it's so fascinating thinking about these stories, that the Kumeyaay and the Greeks that are so separated by space and time are both looking up at this clump of stars, and they're seeing a hunting scene. Like, what is the connection there? So now, notice how you're all like kind of thinking about that. You're like, wow, what are the reasons behind that? This is what we do in our program as an alternative to land acknowledgements. It's what we're here to talk to you about today. So on that note, who are we? We did quick introductions, but again, hi, my name is Betsy. I'm a senior at the University of San Diego, and I've been a guide for the outdoor program for a number of years. I've always been kind of interested in stargazing. It's something that's been a passion of mine for a long time, and as an anthropology major, I'm especially interested in storytelling. And when I first started as a guide for USD Outdoor Adventures, I kind of realized that this was something that a lot of people didn't have knowledge about. This wasn't something that was super prevalent in our program. So I realized that was really an opportunity there. And I really delved into research. And this past semester, I've led probably like 8 stargazing sessions. And those are both like standalone like stargazing nights and like sessions on some of our longer overnight trips. And we always have full attendance for these. So it's definitely something that there's a popular demand for. And people really just love to learn what they're seeing when they're looking at the night sky. So I'm hoping today that I can teach you how to bring this to your own programs.
And then hi, my name is Maddie. I'm also a senior at, you guessed it, the University of San Diego. And I'm studying political science and anthropology. Betsy and I met through the anthropology program a couple years ago there. And one of the coolest things I've been able to be a part of since joining our outdoor program is bringing anthropology connecting students with anthropology in the outdoors. So it all started with the idea to take some of our anthropology students snorkeling with our underwater archaeology professor to a really popular snorkeling spot that also happens to have once been an archaeological dig site. And I think in part, this event has been so popular. We've run it a couple times now, and it's been really popular because students typically swim there without thinking about it, and they have no idea that it's actually an archaeological site. Being there with our professor and getting to know a little bit more about the land that they're on and the history of it has been really interesting to help connect people with the stewards of the land that they're occupying. And now we try to use aspects of this and incorporate it, instead of just for anthropology students, try to bring it into more of outdoor adventures programs as a whole so that all students can get connected with the land that they're on in a way that fits really well with the outdoors and help inform how they interact with and think about the places that they're in. So we know that we're probably not the first people to approach the conversation of a land acknowledgement with you, but what we're hoping to present with Decolonizing the Dark is an approach that we think that lends itself really well to outdoor programming specifically. So hosting an evening of stargazing that intentionally centers both Greco-Roman and Indigenous constellations gives students a chance to connect with the stewards of the land that they're occupying in a way that a land acknowledgement on its own just can't. A land acknowledgement is really important, and we don't want to underestimate that, but we think that something that a stargazing session does better is the length of time that you're thinking about it. So a typical land acknowledgement often gets read quite quickly, and then students stop thinking about it the second it's over. Whereas an evening of stargazing, often you have students thinking about it long after the sun has risen the next day. So by the end of this talk, we're hoping that you see how a stargazing session and sharing star stories can help end the Western monopoly on the night sky and begin to allow us to decolonize the dark. So before we dive in, can I see a show of hands of how many people have heard of land acknowledgements or had experience with them? Almost everyone. That's sort of what we figured. We figured this group knew them. But for anyone that doesn't have a lot of experience, essentially a land acknowledgement is just a formal statement acknowledging the original occupants of the land that you're on. So you see them a lot at universities and at public events and sort of things like that. For those of you that don't have a lot of experience with them or have maybe only heard your universities, if they have one, we have a couple examples for you. So at the University of San Diego, ours says, we acknowledge that the land on which USD is built is the traditional and unceded territory of the Kumeyaay Nation. We pay respect to the citizens of Kumeyaay Nation, both past and present, and their continuing relationship to their ancestral lands. Here at the University of Arizona, it reads, we respectfully acknowledge the University of Arizona is on the land and territories of Indigenous peoples. Today, Arizona is home to 22 federally recognized tribes, with Tucson being home to the O'odham and the Yaqui. The university strives to build sustainable relationships with sovereign Native nations and Indigenous communities through education offerings, partnerships, and community service. So as you can see, these are different, but similar in their overall meaning. And when I first heard a land acknowledgement was at my college orientation in San Diego. And at first I was amazed. I thought it was a really interesting way to bring students back and think about the land that they're on. But the second, third, fourth, and fifth time I heard it, it kind of started to sound empty. I realized that I was seeing them tossed at the bottom of a syllabus where information kind of tends to die. I saw them flashed up on the PowerPoint slide before quickly moving on to the meat of the lecture. It just didn't seem like it was being done as intended. It felt very performative, as if just reading a paragraph was enough, and then we were wiped of all wrongdoing.
So after this, you might be wondering, like, are we arguing to end land acknowledgements? And I just want to reiterate that that's not our point. We think that land acknowledgements are still a step in the right direction over not having land acknowledgements, but that we can kind of continue in this direction and continue moving beyond to more in-depth solutions and incorporating discussions of land ownership and history into an intentional night of stargazing is kind of a method that's really tailored towards outdoor programs and is something that's worked really well for us. So I want to bring us back to my good friend Orion here and kind of break down for you a little bit what I was doing at the beginning of our talk here. So when I'm doing a stargazing session as part of like a longer overnight trips, I'll like gather my participants, after the campfire, kind of quiet down, turn everyone's attention towards the sky. And I'll pick a constellation that's really bright, really easily visible, like Orion here, which is going to be right overhead tonight. Having a laser pointer is also great, just so I can like actually point out like what the constellation looks like, what exactly you're looking to. So I'm not like, over there, like up to the right of the mountain. This is great investment. But then I like to start with the Greek mythology. This is the most widely spread narrative. It's what people are most likely to be familiar with when they're looking at the stars. Like people have probably heard of Orion, even if they're not exactly sure like how to find it in the sky. And then I like to tell like a fun science fact. And so in this case, that was talking about like Betelgeuse or like the colors of the stars, just something along those lines. It might be something that like some people in the group probably already know, but they might not. And it's good to never assume that your group has a bunch of knowledge, because it's just as likely that they know less than you're expecting them to. And this is where, since our trips are usually on Kumeyaay land, I like to tell the Kumeyaay interpretation of that same constellation. And that's kind of bringing in that same discussion of the land ownership and history. And I kind of figure by moving back and forth between these three different topics of like the Greek mythology, the Roman, the more traditional, and then like something fun science, and then that more anthropological perspective, then I'm kind of appealing to the wider variety of interests in my group. And I'll kind of repeat this process, maybe pick like 3 or 4 constellations that are easily visible and like talk for a couple minutes about each of them. And then I'll just kind of open it up for questions and discussions. And essentially what I'm doing in this process is I'm moving from what people are most familiar with, that's like these Greek and Roman names, to what they're least familiar with. And in that case, it's like the Kumeyaay or the local peoples of the area.
So this is how Betsy structures her star stories, but we want to make sure that you know that this isn't the only way. This is just one of many. I think what's most important is you don't have to know or do anything. There's so many things that you can do to make it a lot more accessible and easy for you to start out. So one of the things, you can download one of the night sky apps, and you can go outside and point it up at the stars, and it'll tell you exactly, sort of like Stellarium, it tells you exactly what you're looking at, and it'll tell you the story behind it. You can get lots of information through those. You can, on one of the farther out trips, if you don't want to have your phone, you want to stay unplugged, you can bring a planisphere, which will tell you, if you set it, twist it around, it'll tell you what stars will be overhead at what times of night. And so that's a really cool way. And you can bring along printed details about constellations that you want to talk about. The point is, it's all about knowing yourself and your own interests, because you'll tend to remember the information that you know. So, or that you already know or you're already interested in. So some of you maybe have a lot of experience or interest in the zodiac signs and astrology. So focusing on that set of constellations, those might stick better in your brain, and you might be able to recall those and share them with others more easily. Others maybe read Harry Potter growing up and are interested in the constellations from those books and can tie those to the constellations in the night sky. Some of you maybe know more astronomy and scientific facts, like about Betelgeuse, and can share those a little bit more off the dome than anything else. The point is, you don't have to know it all. You can just start, and you can just try and start the conversation, because what we've found on all of the stargazing sessions that we've hosted is that students are really interested and love the conversation to just be started, and they'll hop in. People have questions and comments and thoughts and things that they heard somewhere that they bring in. And even if you don't know all of the answers to their questions, it's still really great to start that conversation and allow it to continue. It's a really great space for people to reflect on some of those ideas.
Yeah, so speaking of finding the answers, I want to highlight for you real quickly where we find our information when it comes to telling Indigenous stories. So in San Diego, our closest reservation is the Barona Reservation, and they have this really great museum that's owned and operated by the tribe. And they have incredible resources here. I was able to go there and talk to the staff and gather information. And they have a pamphlet that they made, which has like all of the different like Kumeyaay constellations and like a little blurb about each of them. And honestly, like that pamphlet was all I needed to start having these conversations on the trips, to like be the one to bring it up. But I'm really passionate about this. And so I've done a lot more research than that. The San Diego Museum of Us has a lot of great resources, as well as the San Diego Old Town State Historic Park. I was able to gather a lot both in person at these parks and from their websites. And I read a book that was written by a local author about Kumeyaay stargazing and cosmology, and there was a lot of great information in that book. And I've attended talks on the USD campus. I've attended talks given by local leaders in the community. So there are definitely a lot of great resources out there that can help get you started.
So if this is something that you're wanting to start in your own program, as Betsy mentioned, museums and cultural centers are a really great place to start. They have lots of information and can help point you in the right direction about astronomy and cosmology. In addition, your college campus often there are lots of like Native Student Resource Centers, there are events on campus, there are lots of different ways to get involved there, or if you have an office of a tribal liaison, they can often help as well. Websites of tribes and advocacy groups, when the websites when they have them, are really helpful and can help point you in the right direction. Public libraries are often really great as well. I feel like if you walk into a public library, they often have a section dedicated to the place that you're in. So it's either written by local authors, sometimes they have a section there as well about and written by and about your local tribe, so that can be a great resource. The point is, there's lots of different places that you can get resources. It's difficult, sometimes you have to piece them all together, but there's lots of different opportunities there. Now, if you've gone down all these avenues, you've tried it all, and you're still not finding any information in your area, you can't find anything about the land that you're on or the astronomy there, is that the end of it? Does that mean no stargazing for your program? We both still think that even when not used in conjunction with a land acknowledgement, stargazing sessions are really beneficial. And we think they also present such a unique opportunity to challenge the universal beliefs the beliefs that students often hold. So it's a really helpful place for students to think about, we all fall into that trap of thinking that the Greco-Roman constellations that we were taught at such a young age are the only ones out there. And I think this presents a really awesome opportunity to talk about what else there is and sort of challenge those beliefs that students tend to hold. And presenting the stars in a way that people haven't heard before, I think it makes them sit back and think about other things beyond the night sky that they, other truths that they hold they take for granted and that they hold, that they haven't even realized.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note, like, even when you're gathering information across all of these different sources, like in San Diego, due to the history of genocide and residential schools, all of the information across those different sources that I gathered pretty much came from all the same handful of elders who at that point in time were the only ones who remembered the stories. And as a result, they can often be kind of fragmented, or because the Kumeyaay are made up of many different bands who kind of interpreted the stories differently, told them differently, it can be kind of difficult to work with this information. And so that can kind of lead you to think like, who should be telling the stories? Like, Maddie and I are not Indigenous. These are not our stories. Like, do we have the right to be telling these stories? And kind of the conclusion that we've come to is that if we weren't the ones starting this conversation at USD, no one would be. And it's more important for someone who's doing their best to be genuine and accurate and finding sources to be starting this conversation than for no one at all. And because we are able to kind of highlight this variety of stories that exist, we can be creating a safe space on our trips and in our program where students feel comfortable to tell their own stories. And that's why we're wanting to start these conversations. But even if you are living in a place where maybe there's a lack of information, you're not finding these sources, or you're just not feeling good about telling them, there are so many different ways that you can still tell these stories and still kind of open people's eyes to the variety of stories that exist without necessarily finding the specific stories of your local area. And so to illustrate this, I want to bring us back to Orion from the beginning. Instead of telling the story about the 3 bighorn sheep that I did, that was the local Kumeyaay story, I could highlight how Orion has been used for navigation by many different cultures throughout the eons. And so this is a screenshot here from a movie that I'm guessing some of you have seen again. This is Disney's Moana. Yes. So in this screenshot, Moana is holding her hand up to the constellation of Orion. This is Orion's belt right up there. And by doing this, she can find her direction and her latitude. And this is especially important when you're out at the open sea and you don't have any physical landmarks by which to tell which direction you're going. The topmost star of Orion, that's this top star right here, always rises due east. So by doing this, you can always know which direction you're headed. And another constellation that works great for this, for navigation, has been used by so many different cultures, is the Big Dipper. Again, I'm guessing probably some of you have heard of the Big Dipper before. The Big Dipper is used most often to find north, and that's because these 2 stars right here point directly to the North Star, which my next slide illustrates. And yeah, you can see right here, Polaris is the North Star. This is due north. So by using this, you can always find which direction north is. And this is the constellation Ursa Major, and that's the Latin. And as you can see, there's some other stars that are part of that make up the full bear. He's got his legs. If you're in somewhere that's got more light pollution, maybe you're not seeing these kind of dimmer stars, like these are the brightest stars. But that's still a great way to tell which direction you're going. And another interpretation of the Big Dipper besides Ursa Major is the drinking gourd. I don't know, have you all heard the song Follow the Drinking Gourd before? You may or may not be familiar with it. I encourage you all to look it up. But this was a song that was used by the Underground Railroad in the American South to help people escaping slavery. And it's kind of a coded song. The drinking gourd in the song refers to the Big Dipper. So it was used to help people to find north when they were on the Underground Railroad looking to escape to freedom. So by telling this story, the story of Follow the Drinking Gourd, as opposed to a local constellation, I'm still giving context to the land that we're in. I'm still kind of bringing people's attention to like the history of our country. I'm just doing it in a different route.
Yeah, and in the grand scheme of things, on any of these outdoor trips that we're on, we're often away from a lot of the light pollution that so many of us see on our campus that maybe you don't see as much in Tucson, but in San Diego, there's a lot of it. So people are already primed to be looking up at the sky. They don't get to see all of these stars all that often, so it's really like people are just immediately already drawn to look up. And plus, it's so uniquely human to wonder about things beyond our understanding and out there in the universe. And I think that the stars are no different. My time in anthropology has taught me that we don't really understand when or why people started to look up at the stars for meaning making and storytelling, but wherever it started, it stuck and it spread. And now we use the stars for storytelling and reflection. And I think that it presents such a great opportunity to sit back on a trip that is often so go, 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 to like take that second and look up at the stars and learn something and enjoy the night sky.
Yeah, and we found that if you do take the time to research, even as much as a quick 10-minute Google search, it can be really impactful. Students often tend to get kind of stuck in this narrative that whatever story you've heard, usually the Greek and the Roman, that's the only story that's out there. Like that's the real name for that constellation. And this is absolutely not true. And because of this kind of disconnect from reality when you're on these trips, you're already separated from your normal life. You're kind of already more primed to be questioning your beliefs. And as a result, it can be kind of a uniquely powerful time to kind of attempt to decolonize your mind. And we just want to remind you that like there are as many stories out there as there are stars in the sky. Like there is no one right way. No one owns the stars, and everyone has their own story to tell. And so now we have a little activity for you all, and we want you all to find a story that you can tell.
So what we have is a bunch of constellations. Of course, there are tons of them. If you know of others, you're welcome to choose a different one. But what we have are these cups with little push pins, and we've got pens as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose either one of these constellations, or if you know of another, feel free to choose another, and find something out about it. Google it, look it up, see if you can find a story that isn't the most mainstream. So you can look at any sort of mythology, you can look at any time period, whatever speaks to you. There's lots of Mayan mythology and Chinese mythology and indigenous stories. There's tons out there, so feel free to cast a wide net. But look it up, look at the myth, see what it says, and draw that on here. So if you were to draw, or if you chose the constellation Scorpio, you could draw something about, you'd learn about Maui's fish hook potentially. You could draw, the fish hook, and then you'll use the push pin to push in what the stars are. And then you'll hold your phone flashlight up when we turn off the lights, and it'll project the constellation onto the wall. Keep in mind, it'll project it in reverse. So if you want to get real savvy with it and draw it in reverse, it'll project correctly. Otherwise, it'll just be a little backwards. But yeah, so we'll come around and pass these out. Start thinking about a constellation that you want to choose.
Pass cups down, yeah.
Yeah, we need push pins and pens passed out as well.
There we go. Pass the cups down.
Thanks.
There we go.
3. There you go.
Cup somewhere.
There you guys go. You want one?
Yeah.
There you go.
Came up with the original star name.
There you go. You're welcome. There you go.
The stars are kind of, again, that's like that Western culture, so it's like Europeans for the most part. Like,
Did you guys get some?
like dropping push pins.
Or here you go.
Push pins. I have push pins for people.
Do you want me to help start?
You can just share. Yeah, that works too. Yeah.
I'm going to pass them out too.
Yeah.
And then we push.
So Google
Yeah.
it first, then like find the story and then draw whatever story you find.
Yeah, it's push pins.
Push
You'll need,
pins.
you can kind of share too.
Please keep a hand on them, don't drop them. 'Cause that'd be bad. A fun surprise.
You'll need push pins over here.
You guys need push pins. There you go.
Kind of share down.
Push pins.
Did y'all
You
get
guys
push pins
here?
over here?
Wow.
Push pins yet?
Do you guys need push pins?
Perfect.
Are you willing to share with 3 here?
There you go. Mark, can I have a pen? I think everyone got push pins.
Did this group get push pins? Did you guys get push pins?
No.
I didn't get quite the whole back row.
Perfect.
Thank you. I looked at Aquarius.
Hannah, do you guys need push pins?